Hi, everybody. This is Rupy, and I have a fantastic woman in my life. This is Vera. Hi, Vera.
Hi, Rupy.
How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
So, Vera is my client for a very long time, and recently, what I have started doing is that I have to start interviewing these powerful women. They are so empowering. They are doing something in their life which is changing everybody else's life around them. So, let's talk to her about it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. Let's do it. Hey, so let's start with our first question for Vera. Vera, can you tell us about your journey into becoming a life coach?
Well, I've always wanted to help people and women specifically. And when I was just about turning 40, I was going through a divorce. I got fired from my job. And the first person I told that I was getting a divorce was my life coach, other than my family. I did tell my family. But my life coach really helped me get through a really tough time in my life. And that really triggered something in my mind about maybe this is something that I can do. And shortly after that, I decided to get certified as a life coach. And I started creating a lot of different sort of tools and strategies that were helping me get through this tough transition in my life and really discovering what my values were, what was important to me in my life, how I wanted to be in my life, and what I really wanted in my life. And I now use those tools and those strategies to help my clients discover what's important to them so that they can create a life that they really love to live as well. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So we sometimes learn from our pains.
Definitely. We always learn from our pain.
Awesome.
Right?
So what sets you apart from other life coaches?
Well, I think a few things. I was in the corporate world for about 25 years. And so I really understand the corporate world. A lot of my clients are working professionally. They're working in the corporate, in the corporate world. And there's lots of stressors there, right? If you're a leader, if you're a manager, or even if you're just an employee and an individual contributor. So I understand that world, which I think is really beneficial for a lot of my clients. I've also gone through a lot of transitions in my life as well. I've reinvented myself several times. Like I mentioned before, I've gone through a divorce. I've gone through, some death in the families. I've gone through other things. And I think that makes me really relate to people as well. Not necessarily on all the levels, but like you said, our pains and our struggles give us learnings and opportunities and gifts and empathy. And I think that I can really relate well to women, and especially women going through transitions in midlife, right? So that's my ideal client. That's who I love working with, is women who are in midlife. So say, late 30s to early 60s, and they're really looking to up level into this next chapter, because that's really what it's all about, right? Like when we go through these challenges, when we're laid off from work, or when we go through a divorce, or when we become an empty nester, these are all transitions, like life shifts. And so I really want to help my clients up level into their next chapter, so they can really go into their next chapter feeling really good about themselves and feeling really confident, really knowing what's important to them, and really doing it from a place that is authentic and genuine and feels good for them.
Awesome. So that was my next question. Who is your ideal client? So you said that already. Thank you so much. So what are some common misconceptions about life coaching? Like why people don't take it?
Yeah. I think sometimes, especially for women, it's really challenging to ask for help, right? We think that we need to do it all by ourselves. We think that there's something wrong with us if we ask for help. We maybe tell ourselves these excuses that we're too busy, or we can't afford it, or there's just not enough time, or I need to look after my children. And yes, we need to do all those things. And sometimes those constraints are actually real, but a lot of times we're putting these constraints on ourselves, and we're not putting ourselves first. And so I think that's one challenge, is that we just don't ask for help. And I really encourage that if you are struggling, or if you do feel stuck, or if you do need just a little boost, maybe it's an accountability, or maybe it's I'm trying to create a new habit and I just need some help with that, why not accelerate that process, right? With life coaching, it helps accelerate some of these things that we want to get to. It helps accelerate getting to goals. It helps accelerate setting some good habits. And what's really interesting is that if you look at any kind of quote unquote successful person out there. So if you look at someone like an Oprah Winfrey or a Tony Robbins, or, you know, anybody that is doing really well in their career, in their life, they all have coaches. So all successful leaders have coaches. So I don't know why we don't think that as just people, as working women, as professional women, as moms, that we don't deserve that as well. Like we all deserve that. And I think that's the common misconception, is that, well, only certain people get to have coaches, but we all need help from time to time. And so I really encourage you.
See, Tiger Woods, I believe
everybody,
he
right?
has coaches for his swing, his putting, his like little neck things, and his mindset,
exactly.
and meditation and everything.
Exactly.
Can you share a success story with us from one of your clients?
Yeah, that's a hard one because there's so many. But, you know, I recently had a client that was really feeling disconnected from her husband because she was feeling so overwhelmed at work. Like she just did not like her job at all. And so through our work together, she actually found that all of a sudden we were doing a lot of talking about her job and how she can tap into the value that she was bringing to the job. So she was starting to feel a lot more confident and starting to feel like, yeah, I'm actually creating value in my job. But she was still carrying this, and she was working at home. So she was carrying these stressors up from her day at the end of the day to her husband. And she was just like, basically complaining, right? Let's call it what it is, right? And so we kind of shifted that around. And what she ended up doing was creating this little end of day ritual for herself, where she wrote out all the things that she accomplished in the day. She wrote out anything that she was maybe struggling with, or things that maybe didn't go so well, and how she could maybe put them onto the next day. And she just took 2 or 3 minutes just to breathe and get herself calm and organized and really close out the day, so that when she went downstairs to be with her husband, she was all of a sudden able to have this like a conversation that wasn't complaining, that wasn't overwhelming, that wasn't this like, you know, her telling her husband all her frustrations. She was actually able to connect with him.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. And so it was just this really simple practice that she created for herself that worked for her. So I have lots of examples, but I really love that one because it impacted her job, it impacted her confidence, it impacted her relationship. So, and that's the thing, right? Like we come to coaching usually because we're struggling in one area, but then all of a sudden it starts impacting all the other areas of our life, right?
That's so true. Yeah. So as you know, nowadays we have that culture that everybody's working, because, you know, this is how we have made ourselves. Like earlier it was men go to work, women looks after the house. Now, since we are all working, do you have any tips for life and work-life balance for all of us?
Oh, that's a good question, Rupy. I don't necessarily use the term work-life balance because I don't know if there actually is such a thing. What I like to talk about is life alignment, right? And work is part of our life. Right? So if we just say work and life, it kind of makes me feel like there's work is a big thing and then life is everything else. But if we think about it as life, and then there's different aspects of our life, and work is one that I think we all think is really important. Like a lot of us really love our jobs. We want to grow our careers. We want to, you know, have purpose in that. Yes, and I think that's amazing. But it's also not the only thing. So I talk about it as more like alignment. Like, are you aligned with your work? Are you aligned with other things in your life? And how can you create more alignment in your life based on all the other areas of your life, whether it's fitness or whether it's spirituality or whether it's recreation or relationships. So it's not really a balance. It's more aligning your values, aligning what's important to you, aligning kind of where you want to be, like where your goals are. Yeah, that's kind of the approach I take.
Oh, that's very nice. Does life coaches, do they have their own philosophy?
Yeah, everyone has their own philosophy. I mean, again, my philosophy is sort of, like I said, the work, like sort of the alignment piece. I really believe that everyone has the answers within them. We all have the answers within ourselves, but we have a lot of external noise around us. We have a lot of conditioning, right? So again, I work with midlife women. So if you've had 40 years of programming to think a certain way or be a certain way, society tells us that we should be at a certain point in our lives in a certain way, that we should be doing certain things. And so my philosophy is we have the answers within us, but that we need to learn to reconnect with that intuition, with our inner wisdom. And so what, you know, my sessions are all about mostly me listening and asking some questions. But it's really about my client having the space and the time to connect back to what's, you know, to their intuition, to connect back with what's important to them. So that's my main philosophy, is that everyone already knows what needs to happen. It's just allowing ourselves and giving ourselves permission to do that, to quiet down the noise around us and really tune into like, what's most important to you. And I ask that question a lot, like, what do you want? What's best for you and what's most important to you? And how can you align your action steps and your habits and your environment to support what's most important to you, not what someone else is saying, but what's most important to you.
So it's so personal, right?
Very personal.
So when we talk about life coaching, it's not, you know, we don't need life coach. We actually need life coach because it's so personal. It's everybody's story. It's everybody's help, right? How do you say pandemic affected our life?
Well, in a few different ways. I mean, I think there was silver linings and everything. I think there was a lot of positive things that came out of the pandemic. However, you know, we're still seeing the results, the negative outcomes of that. We're feeling a lot more stressed. We're overwhelmed. Our kids aren't doing that great, right? So a lot of parents are dealing with kids that are facing anxiety or their own struggles. And so how do you support our children? So that's a really big one. You know, how do we start going back to the office or back to connecting with people? Women especially feel so disconnected. Every time I have a class or some sort of group event, everybody says, I thought I was the only one dealing with this. So I think we're still so isolated, even though we have these wonderful tools like Zoom and we have videos and we're quote unquote more connected than we ever were before. But loneliness and feeling alone and feeling disconnected is I think that's kind of our next pandemic, if you want to use that terminology. And I think that's the biggest thing, is we just feel so disconnected and we're just feeling so stressed and overwhelmed with all the things that we think need to happen. So I think that's the biggest thing.
I know, I feel that too. It has changed us somehow in a good way or in a not so good way. You know, in a good way, it's like now we feel that, oh my God, that 3 months of isolation was like, it was so disconnecting from the world. So I have to connect again, or I have to connect more. And sometimes people, you know, we see all this rudeness around us, right? So maybe that's what pandemic brought as well, because we were more humble before. And then after pandemic, it was like, you know, we are just more, I don't know, we have to just give people leverage. We just have to give people a little bit more empathy and then think, who knows what's going on in their day, kind of thing. So we all have to adapt that, guys. You know, so just give a smile to somebody in the grocery line, right? And what I always do is, if my cart is full in Costco and I have somebody standing behind me, they have 5 things, I always tell them, I'm like, you go ahead, because mine is going to take whatever time, you know. So that's that.
It's those little kindnesses, right?
Right.
And we need that. We need more of that. Like, we need to all be showing a lot more, like you said, kindness and empathy. And that's what's going to help make the world better, right? And everybody is dealing with something. Everybody, even if they don't look like it. We see people who look so put together, right? You know, they're doing what we think is doing well, and then you start talking to them, asking a few questions, and they're definitely carrying something.
Yeah, everybody's carrying. Yeah. Some books do you suggest?
Well, my favorite, so I love creating habits. I think that's such an important part of our,
so I know what you're,
you know what I'm going to say. So I love creating routines and habits. I think that's what actually gets us towards our goals. And so one of my favorite books is called Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. I love that book. I use his philosophy and his teachings a lot with my clients. So I definitely recommend that book. The other book that I highly recommend that I'm just reading right now, I haven't quite gotten through it, but I follow her. Her name is Susan David. She's a psychologist, and her book is called Emotional Agility. And she talks and teaches us how to be with our feelings, all of our feelings.
Wow.
And that feelings are information. And so when we feel frustrated or discouraged or sad or anxious or irritated, that we really need to lean into those feelings to learn from them and not ignore them or shove them away, which I find a lot of us do, right?
Yes.
Oh, I don't want to feel uncomfortable, so I'm just going to push that away or push it down, but it will come up in some way, shape, or form.
You know what? Feelings are feelings. So what I feel is that, when we are having 2 glasses of wine or a bottle of wine or some sort of substance, right? So we are just suppressing them. So we feel like, oh, it's gone away, but no, it will come back next day because it's not gone away. So things will be gone away when you deal with them.
Exactly.
Right. So,
exactly.
and a life coach will help you to deal with them.
Definitely.
So how can people connect with you? How can they find you?
Yeah, thanks for that. So I'm mostly on LinkedIn, so you can just find me under my name, Vera Ilnyckyj, or my website is practicalwisdomcoaching.ca, and all the links are on there as well. I'm on, like I said, mostly LinkedIn. I have a weekly podcast as well, so the links are there. I'm on Instagram and Facebook as well, or people can text me or DM me, all the ways.
So I always have this problem. I cannot pronounce Vera's last name. So Vera, can you just spell it for us?
Yes, it's Ilnyckyj. Ilnyckyj.
Okay. So and then I will be coming out again with a lot more interviews. And one of them actually is dealing with kids' mental health.
So
right?
important.
So it is very important. If you guys want to know more about other topics, I have clients from all walks of life, right? I have clients like Vera who are life coach. I have clients who are dealing with kids and adult mental health. I have clients who are actually dealing with kids literacy. I have clients who are doctors. I have clients who are lawyers. I have clients nurses. I have clients from all walks of life. And if you guys want to know something which we can locally support, like Vera lives in Calgary, she lives here, we can practically go to her and take our coaching. If you want to do Zoom, of course you can do Zoom as well. But you know what, I want to support all our local our friends, our local family. How I can help you guys, let me know. If you want me to bring somebody, I will totally find that person for you. I'm going to bring a fitness coach as well. And then this is how you're connecting with Vera. Give her a chance, take her coaching. And then I'm thinking of doing that because my mind is going 100 miles a minute, right? So I need to calm down and then just streamline my life, right? So we'll talk to you more. Thank you, Vera, so much for coming out so early in the morning. And whenever she comes, I feel like she's so calm and collective and beautiful. Thank you so much, guys. We will talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.